Well, welcome everyone to Nerd of the Rings. I am super excited to introduce Philippa Boyens. You of course know Philippa from her excellent work in Middle-earth, among other things. Philippa, I'm excited to nerd out with you today.
Okay, let's do it. I've nerded out with some of the best, I'm just warning you.
I know, yes, I am well aware. And it's a little daunting to think of the company that you've nerded out with. I like to start people off, I always ask the question first, how were you first introduced to Tolkien?
I was given the books when I was 10 years old. I know because my mum wrote the date in them, and I can't find them. It's so interesting that you bring that up because I actually did use those original copies when I very well worn when I first started working with Fran and Pete, and I know they're somewhere but I can't find them. I must do that, make a mental note, find those books. But they actually, to be honest with you, they sat on the shelf for a while before, because I kept looking at how big they were and everything. But I knew my mother loved them, and not only that, she had a great love, she still does, have a great love of sagas and histories and tales and myths and mythology, which she'd passed on to me. And so eventually, a few years later, I sort of started reading them, and then I just never stopped. Basically, they became my go-to sort of comfort read that I would fall into. It was just, I think a lot of people have that relationship with those books.
Yeah.
It's a lot. If you're lucky enough to come to them, especially when you're a bit younger, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you think you own them.
Yeah. It's always a comforting place to return to, Middle-earth.
Yeah.
Now, take us back to, it's crazy to think that this has been 20 plus years ago now. But,
yes, stop it.
But back, in the 90s when you...
oh my God, back in the 90s.
I know,
my God.
I had to explain to my kids the other day that there were phones that plugged into the wall, and they were very confused by it. I'm right there with you. So how did you come to get onto Lord of the Rings? And
actually, can I say, this is a funny thing, I don't think I've ever told anybody this. This is how far back it started. To any young screenwriters out there, they'll probably find this hilarious, because I was up in Auckland when I first started working on the script with Fran and Peter. They lived down in Wellington, and we used to fax each other pages.
Oh.
We had fax machines in those days. So that's,
We'll put a graphic up explaining what a fax machine is for all the young people.
Yes, so anyone who sort of tends to work in the industry, especially back then, tended to sort of know each other or be friends of friends, which is sort of how we came to know each other. I also knew them. I was head of the New Zealand Writers Guild at one stage, so I knew them through that, Fran and Peter through that. But basically it was through a mutual friend, Stephen Sinclair, through him they knew that I was a bit of a Tolkien fan.
Yeah.
Not expert. I just want to, disclaimer, not expert. I've met Tolkien experts and I'm not one of them. But huge Tolkien fan. And they had I remember when he said, "You'll never guess what their next film is going to be. Yeah. It's going to be," I said, "No, what?" And when he said The Lord of the Rings, I think I literally went, "Well, that's not going to happen." And but anyway, they asked if I would read this 90-page treatment that they'd done. And at that stage it was with Miramax, and it was going to be 2 films. And even just reading that 90-page treatment, it made me go, oh my God, maybe you could. Because the landscape of Middle-earth was in there, and you could see the heart of that journey in there as well. And I thought, maybe you could tell this tale. Yeah. I was, like any fan, so terrified of what would be lost along the way.
Right.
But that's what happened. I read it, and then I gave them some notes. I was terrified about giving them notes because I was like, who am I to do this? but they liked them, and then they asked me if I wanted to. I think it was like maybe work on a little bit of the story, story structure, storytelling, and then it was like they were on a deadline. Fran had literally had a baby very recently. It was crazy time for them. They were scrambling to do a lot of stuff, and they needed help with the prologue. We'd talked about a prologue, and I wrote this thing, and some of which is in the film.
Cool.
It's and I just wrote it, and then after that they said, would you consider writing this with us? And the whole thing was, it was always very much a sort of this what I love about them was as filmmakers, they were pursuing this because it was a film Peter wanted to see himself, so he always likes to make things that he wishes somebody would make.
Yes,
sometimes he realizes, it's going to have to be me.
Yeah.
But also that their approach was always so creative and interesting and truthful and authentic, and working really, really hard not to make some Hollywood blockbuster. No one had any idea what this was going to be. This was about trying to wrangle the story into a place where it would work on film. And so it was like this incredible masterclass in learning how to write for film.
Yeah. There's a lot of things, thinking back on the appendices and everything, the whole thing seems like a masterclass, it's really, really incredible. Do you remember any of those, any specific notes you gave them in those early days when it was still, you weren't officially on, but you had some feedback for them?
Oh, that's a really good idea. A really good question. No, a really good question. I think I had thoughts about some of the exposition and understanding that it was going to be really top heavy exposition wise, and sort of this Tolkien has got. Does sort of shine a path on the way to on how to actually unfold that storytelling, that very top heavy weighted. How do you make someone understand what a dwarf is? It's very interesting because in those early days you're very dependent on who's reading the script, and a script is not a film.
Yeah.
And what became very self-evident when we came to filming, because, by the way, once this got greenlit by New Line and suddenly went from 2 films to 3 films, we were scrambling because we were in production. We were having to revise as we went, so that was a really intense process. And along the way, though, we were able to let go of some of the things that were so exposition top heavy. For example, trying to describe what a dwarf is. And then you understand, I know what you do. You have John Rhys Davies turn up as a dwarf, and then that's it. That's all you need to do.
And then
the audience becomes intrigued and wants to know more. But I think it had to do with that relationship between Frodo and Bilbo. I think I had notes on about a possible way to introduce Gandalf into the story. I don't know. I don't know what it was, to be honest. I truly can't remember.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it was also things just like where some of the cliffhangers were, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Anyway.
Now, you mentioned the prologue sequence, which is one of my favorite sequences in film. It's just so, the way it's structured, it gets you, what you need to know to get on with the story. It's not. There's not a bunch of extra stuff that you don't need to know. It just feels very, perfect, for lack of a better term. I love the prologue. So
thank you. It was hard. Thank God for Kate Blanchett. Can I just say that? But yeah, little bits of magic happened along the way. One of the things that we wanted to do was capture that Tolkien-esque voice. But yeah, that Iana Esther. Yeah. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm gonna get it wrong. But that whisper, I remember that came to us, and we scrambled to get it translated really quickly. With the world has changed.
Yes.
And then to overlay that was something that happened organically on the ADR stage actually.
Yeah.
And then we tried it, the overlaying of it, and the whispered voice.
Yeah.
That sense of, I think of secrets, of something that should not have been forgotten was lost. And we were speaking directly to the audience about maybe this is part of a history that we have lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bit of a bold move to start your movie off with a black screen, you know. But I remember that grabbing my attention because, you know, you start hearing these whispers and it's just black screen for a little bit. Yeah, it just sucked me in. And, you know, obviously the movies never let me go.
But it was also, I think, starting on a note, I think there's a lot of things Professor Tolkien would have hated about what we did. But, you know, I think one of the things that he didn't believe in necessarily, and he always rejected the notion there were necessarily themes to the Lord of the Rings. I think once someone pushed him and he said, if there's a theme to this, it's death. Which people, unless you understand his concept of that, sounds very dark and very grim, which of course it is absolutely not. But one of the other things that he returned to time and time again is the notion of the world has changed.
Yes.
So it just felt so right to start the film there.
Yeah.
And that felt authentic, and I think that's what we were always looking to do, really working really hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, you know, looking back and across all 6 Middle-earth films, we'll open it up for you know, beyond just Lord of the Rings. Do you have a favorite scene that you remember working on or writing that when it got released in the final product that you're most proud of, or you think, oh, that was just...
I can't. It's like saying, who's your favorite child? You just can't. You can't. You absolutely can't. But I can tell you that one of the scenes I think I contributed one line to that is just like a masterful piece of writing is the Gollum Smeagol scene talking to himself, which was Fran, who had worked so hard. How are we going to crack this character, the telling of this, who is this Smeagol, who is this Gollum, how do we do this? And of course it's a conversation with himself, which is breaking every screenwriting rule. You don't want characters talking to themselves,
right. But it worked.
But so, yeah, I mean, what can I say?
Yeah.
She's a genius. She would hate that I said that.
Well, we've got it on record now.
Yeah.
Fran, you can't deny it.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah. And then, of course, Andy just knew exactly what to do.
Yeah. Now, do you have any, I mean, again, it's probably like picking between children, but, you know, any specific characters or castings that, I mean, so many of them are just so dead on to me.
Yeah.
You know, do you have one that
I think it was fate, honestly. Yeah. Fran said that a long time ago, that the right person came to the right role. I mean, it was I truly feel every single role was cast so perfectly with the right person came to the role at the right time. And sometimes it was a bit of a journey getting there, but I can't. I honestly can't. It's weird because when you look at the grand scale and scope of the talent that was brought to bear in that cast, and then you forget all these phenomenal performances like Brad Dourif as Wormtongue. It's like, oh my God, you know, couldn't be more perfect. But I do have to say, going back into the world of the Rohirrim, I think, and looking back on that young girl who fell into that story, Éowyn always speaks to me and gets me. Yeah. And that was one of the hardest castings, I have to say.
Really?
Yeah,
Miranda
we
Otto
looked for Éowyn everywhere, And we just felt blessed when Miranda said yes to the role. So,
well, and then we also, of course, Miranda and yourself are coming back to Middle Earth with War of the Rohirrim. So what's it been like to dive into Middle Earth a third time?
A third time, I know. It feels very familiar, to be honest. I have to say, but I'm really glad that I had that break away from it. I don't think there's no way we could have, after the Hobbit trilogy, gone back into the world. And also, I honestly had every expectation, and still do, that other people's minds and talents and storytelling abilities are going to come to this world, obviously. And I think that's only good. That's, so just coming back into this was actually a very gentle return to Middle Earth, because it didn't start out as big as it's ended up. It was a very gentle kind of speculation at some stage of, what do we think about animation, and thinking about it, it was like, you know what, weirdly enough, Professor Tolkien's concept of any film would have been an animated film. The very first Lord of the Rings films were animated films. So it actually, once I put my head there, I felt really interested in it and engaged in that conceptually. And then when they said anime, my brain just went, oh, wow, okay. Now, which was good, because to me, then you started narrowing things down, because what is going to work in terms of anime? And then the warrior culture of the Rohirrim immediately, it was just became this whole thing. They talked about a number of things, and I was just like this really bossy person who just went, nope. I know exactly what this should be. I know exactly what the story should be. So God, I hope I'm right. But I think it was actually quite a nice process of getting to that point of going, you know what? Actually, yes. And then also, once we landed on the story of Helm and we calling it the War of the Rohirrim, because we couldn't find a title for a while, but it's kind of perfect. Because that's what's most interesting about this story to me, was that this isn't about Dark Lords or rings of power, or elves, or dwarves. Might be some other creatures in there though, just saying. It is about a people caught within this dreadful conflict, and that begins to tear them apart, and it became really fascinating, and to me, to explore. And then I understood, after you delve into it, you begin to realize, wow, there's a thread here, and there's a thread here, and then there's this, and then when I understood it was going to be Kenji Kamiyama doing it, it was like, wow, now I really want to see it. Because visually, especially, well, he's actually, in his own right, he's a masterful storyteller. He is actually a writer, but he's just such a visual master, and that got me even more excited. So yeah. Sorry, I should stop raving on about it. But we are nerds, right?
Nobody is
out.
complaining about us nerding out and going wherever the conversation takes us, believe me.
Okay.
I'm curious.
Can I really nerd out then?
Yes, please do.
Okay. I found I'd forgotten this. I had this in my brain somewhere, and then I went back into Humphrey Carpenter's biography. I thought I knew it. And then I discovered. So Professor Tolkien, when he finally got, I think, his proper scholarship to Oxford, and because he did not grow up with money at all. In fact, was pretty dependent on the generosity of others and the largesse of others. So it was his brain and his intellect that got him to Oxford, and then he finally got a stipend at Oxford, and he used that stipend to furnish his digs, as they call them, which is like your where you live, and one of the first things he bought was some Japanese prints artwork.
Wow, that's kind of interesting.
It is, and when you actually look at
connection.
his own artwork, you can kind of feel that there.
Like a little inspiration.
There is some inspiration
Yeah.
there, absolutely. So yeah. Anyway, that's us nerding out.
Yeah. I love nerding out. That's I figured we'd have a fair amount of that in this. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm curious with the the anime medium that you guys are using. Obviously the previous films have all been live action.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's some differences in approach. Maybe there's maybe some challenges. Some what kind of challenges have you run into?
Right. You know what, there is and there isn't. You have to tell a good story first and foremost. It has to work on film, and which means things like pace and having a good beginning, a middle, and an end sort of thing. Having revelations and reversals and all of these sorts of things, those sorts of layered things that sort of build tension in film. It's also you've also got to be writing for this visual medium, etc., etc. All of that remains true in writing animation and writing for anime. But with anime, what you have, and in some ways you might think it's a drawback, but actually it becomes, for a writer, I think, really sharpens you, your storytelling, and that is, because the faces cannot carry the same level of expressions that live action can carry, or even some forms of animation, especially some of the more advanced forms of animation that you can see today. That expression is in the way that the figures move. It's in the way the camera moves. It's in the way the interaction between characters. It's almost like a dance, and it became really interesting writing for that dance. Because you're not going to be able to, so in the broad landscape, the structure, maybe not quite so different. Yeah. But actually, there's two people, I think they're still working, who are busy working here right now, that you should meet, who can probably speak to that a bit more, because they had to actually grapple with that, those scenes, actually getting those scenes to come to life and work. With the form of anime. Yeah.
Now, to nerd out a little bit more here.
Yeah.
In the appendices of Lord of the Rings, there's lots of little scraps of stories, and that's where this story that you guys are telling comes from.
Yes.
What is it about this story? As you look at the appendices stories, and you look and see this story and think, yes, this is the one that we should tell.
Well, again, I think that's because to me it felt like a story that was very different to the live action films. That it could be set within, there was a familiarity to it because we're dealing with Rohan. You will see Meduseld, you will see Eroras. You've never seen Eroras in Flames though, which you're going to see, which is, so there's, you go to the Hornburg before it was Helm's Deep, all of these things. So there's a familiarity in there, but then it is very different. And what I struck me when trying to see, is there enough weight there? Is there enough things that are interesting in there that's going to pull an audience in? You suddenly realize, oh my God, the inherent conflict in this story, it's so intense. And then how it escalates is so intense. And then the stakes just keep getting higher and higher. It's actually a gift for filmmakers. And there's a tragedy at the heart of it, but there's also a tale of resilience and survival, which is inspiring, always inspiring. And it speaks very much, I think it aligns very much with, the great filmic tradition that carries through with Japanese filmmakers like Kurosawa, etc., and Miyazaki's films is small things, these little details, things that can grow, but also how when you're not paying attention, there's other levels going on in the world. You know, I love the way in which always atmosphere fills out any piece of storytelling, and so you have a tale in Helm he's not just a king, he's a man who loses so much and is driven mad by grief.
Yes.
You know, that's a powerful piece of storytelling. And then you go deeper and deeper into the story, and then you've got, okay, but he has these sons. They're interesting characters, but he also has this unnamed daughter. What the hell? What was going on with her?
Yeah.
Because it actually kind of starts with her.
Yeah, yeah.
And Wulf, who becomes the antagonist in the story, is such an interesting character.
Yeah.
So, you know, once you started going into that story, you understood that there was a lot in there just on that level about a people tearing themselves apart. But then we haven't let the outer world of Middle-earth slip away completely, because it is set against the backdrop of a lot of interesting things that are also going on in Middle-earth. So for the fans of the original Lord of the Rings out there, there's, you know, those elements that we wanted to draw upon.
Yeah, there's so much, you know, like how you illustrated, you know, we'll see Edoras, but we're going to see it in flames. You know, there's some familiarity there, it feels like, you know, and thinking of just the things that we think of that are core Rohan, you know, in that story of that time period. And, you know, I think, yes, there's all this bravery, but, you know, Helm is definitely not Theoden. So, like, there's some similarities in the Rohirrim, obviously, as a people, but, you know, we're going to get presumably a very different King of Rohan in this.
Very different, very different. Really interesting. Brian Cox, I mean, who else? What a gift. So, and he's very interesting because I actually tried to go and see him play. He's very famous for a production that he did with the Royal Shakespeare Company called, of Titus Andronicus, the Shakespeare play, and which is about a father and a character who is driven, not mad necessarily, but whose grief drives him into some pretty dark places. And I tried to go and see his performance because it was literally legendary. I mean, and I talked to him about it. I managed to have this chance to talk to him about it, and he actually told me people would leave the theatre in some moments.
Wow.
Yeah. Especially if he fixed his eye on them.
Oh my goodness.
So, but I did have some friends who saw that performance and they just raved about it. So he felt like a very, very natural fit to come to this. You know, he hasn't been king. He's been a warrior for a long time. He hasn't necessarily been a king for a long time. People forget that in the storytelling. And he's what kind of mode is his head at? And what is he doing at the beginning? And the choices that he makes are so interesting. And does he ever get a sense that he made the wrong choice? And then how does he try to redeem himself? Does he try to redeem himself? All of those sorts of things. I'm not telling you.
I mean, you do, when reading that story, you know, I can't help but look at the way he earns his nickname Hammerhand. I can't help but look at it and think, maybe you didn't have to handle it quite that way. You know, the way things play out.
The weird thing is, actually, you guys could help us out, because there's some controversy about how he got it. Did he already have it? Or did he get it then?
See, I thought he got it then.
I thought he got it then.
Yeah.
But then some other people tend to think, no, it was the hammer that he wielded. But I
think it's
when but then I think he was known as that before that. I don't know. Anyway, there you go. That's one would like all Tolkien experts out there to weigh in. Please
guys.
Weigh in.
Put it in the comments. Let us know. Did Helm Hammerhand get his name? You know what we're talking about. If you know what we're talking about, you know. So comment when he gets his nickname. We won't spoil it.
Did he have it before or did he get it after?
After, yes.
Okay.
Now, we mentioned, there's all these breadcrumbs of stories in the appendices, and War of the Rohirrim obviously is one that there's breadcrumbs. They're very tasty breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Are there any, as just a Tolkien book fan, are there any other stories you look at in the appendices and you think, oh gosh, that would be cool if someone made that someday?
Yes, there's quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
That's all you're going to say about that.
I do. Okay. What would you do?
I think a popular one is the Angmar War with the Witch King. Okay, yeah.
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
That
feels big though. That feels like that's a big piece of storytelling.
Yeah, it is.
That's epic. That's epic.
That's a fall of an entire kingdom, and I love seeing the Witch King in his armor. That's for sure.
It's a tricky one though. It is a tricky one. Because have we tread some of that path? I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. You'd have to go and have a really hard look at it.
Yeah.
No, there's some others in there. This one in particular, because everyone thinks of dragons as very heated and hot and fiery. There you go. There's a hint.
That's it.
Let's see if anyone gets what I'm meaning.
Yes.
Because there are other types of dragons out there.
And there are wars involving dragons.
Yes, or not necessarily wars involving dragons. There are other types of worms.
Ah, okay. All right. I'm catching what you're throwing. Yeah.
You reckon?
I think so.
Okay. Anyway, I've always thought that's interesting, and actually not outside of the world or the precursors to the Rohirrim.
Yeah. Also, I've
always thought that was an interesting story. Yeah.
I also think...
And also very Tolkien.
Yes, yeah. I also think an interesting one, putting my cinematic brain on would be the War in the North and seeing Erebor, during the climax of War of the Ring.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's been tread on that ground a little bit, but I think that could be interesting too.
It was very brave. It was incredibly like Battle of Britain brave kind of level of last stand, last ditch.
Yeah.
I always wanted to see the Mouth of Sauron. Is it the Mouth of Sauron who comes to? So and then him, it's Dane saying, no, f off.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not allowed to swear.
Sorry. So that's a kind of an open for debate, because some people he's just referred to as a messenger. So is it Mouth of Sauron? Is it one of the Nazgul? Because he's asking about Bilbo and the ring, and we know that he only trusts the Nazgul to get the ring.
It feels part of another story though necessarily. I don't know. I think there are lots and lots of interesting kind of stories in there. I just think it's about shaping, like one of the things that the War of the Rohirrim doesn't do is it doesn't try to slot itself into the live action movies.
Yes, yeah.
And I think, I'm not saying that there's no resonance there. Éowyn is narrating this. It's going to feel hopefully very familiar on certain levels, but But
it stands on its own.
It stands on its own, which important. I think has a lot of value at the moment. I think in terms of revisiting the world, because there is still story to be told within the tale of the War of the Ring.
Yeah.
Which is what you're talking about.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so I think and that's a different beast to me. That's a different type of film.
Absolutely.
A different beast, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything else.
All right. Keep your secrets.
Yeah, okay. You've been waiting to say that.
I know. I was like, I have that waiting. Now, you've kind of established this routine now that you basically return to Middle-earth every 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any chance we can get you to come back sooner next time around?
Yeah, well, yes, but I do think it's about time that it was. I mean, yes, but also I do think fresh eyes,
Yeah.
fresh talent coming to it is really, really important. I think it's just, well, not just because I'm getting older and, you just can't, just keep going at that pace. But I also actually think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think younger minds potentially is a good idea, I have to say.
Well, I've got a few lightning round questions. I say lightning round, but I feel like, the bigger Tolkien nerd I talk to, it's a more slow, deliberate lightning strike.
Oh,
yes.
God. Am I getting graded?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, this is no, I'm not going to try to stump you with trivia.
Okay.
No. These are
Okay.
kind of like some of your favorite Middle-earth things.
Okay.
So we can,
Let's go.
Yeah, but I usually ask people their favorite Middle-earth character, but since, you're a kindred spirit here and a huge Tolkien nerd, I'll give you one for each age. So first, second, and third age.
Okay.
Favorite Tolkien character.
Okay, the last one's going to be the hardest. First one's easy.
Okay.
Who do you think I'm going to say?
In first age? Yeah. Fingolfin.
Oh, no.
No?
No. Luthien.
Oh,
Dude,
that's a
that
darn
was
good one. That was so
sitting
easy.
there.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
of course.
Yeah.
She's the precursor of all of those women.
Yeah.
Come on.
I hear Fingolfin a lot, so
Okay.
I was playing the probabilities there and not. I should have.
Look what that woman does.
Yeah.
Jesus. And then second, if I get another one, Morgoth.
Oh,
come on! What a character
yeah.
to write.
I mean, his story is the first age story, which
Yeah.
is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I do love too the Luthien, the way she tears down Tol and Galroth, and the way Galadriel tears down Dol Guldur.
Yeah,
It's very similar, and I always love that imagery.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Second age. Well, now you're talking some tricky ones. Second age. Second age. I'm going to stay with a woman.
Okay.
Celebrian.
Oh,
So
that's a good
Elrond's
one.
wife.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good one.
Because you can bring in so many elements there. Sorry, this is me thinking as a writer.
Yeah,
I should actually
absolutely.
just say why I like her as a character. I think maybe because we've been because you don't know so much about her, and yet she does play a fairly prominent role.
Yeah.
I think her fate,
Yeah.
the way that it's kind of a little bit unknown, is really interesting. But, she is the daughter of such a powerful woman and gives birth to another powerful woman.
Yeah.
And lives a fairly tragic life.
Yes.
So, very interesting character to me. Alternatively, the other character that I've always found really interesting is Durin the Third.
Oh, okay.
So, and that relationship
between
dwarf and elf.
Yeah.
Second age. Third age, oh God.
I will say, as you're thinking about third age, the thing I love about your answer of Celebrian is that she's kind of like this intersecting point for, you've got Galadriel, you've got Elrond, you've got Arwen,
so now
you've got the twins.
Now I should say, I'm not going to, because I think the heart of, I think there was something in Frodo Baggins that Tolkien was reaching for that is extraordinary.
Yes.
And I think a very, very hard character to write and an even harder character to play. I don't think people appreciate really how incredible Elijah Wood was in playing that role, because everything happens to this character, and it's one of those characters where you have to be very reactive and you have to carry the weight of so much. And I think, so as much as I just love all of those characters, I have to say, if someone has my heart, and that again is going back to the young girl reading those books for the first time, absolutely Frodo. Yeah. Frodo Baggins.
I think he's underappreciated a lot, like both book Frodo, movie Frodo, like every Frodo.
I know, because it's
underappreciated.
kind of obvious.
Yeah.
you know, it's like, oh yeah, but that's so obvious. But it is obvious.
Yes.
It's obvious for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes through
Everything.
all of it.
All
Yeah.
of it, yeah.
Now, what is, we talked about scenes from the films. What is your favorite scene from the films? Again, I'm making you choose between children.
I
here.
can't. I can't. I tell you, no, I can't.
Is it, okay, how about this? How about this? Let's change it up. Is there one that's most memorable that you remember being on set for?
Yes, Ian McKellen doing the speech, so do all who live to see such times. That gave me chills. But, you know, I was on set for quite a lot of it, and it's just Vigo on horseback doing the speech to the troops. I mean, oh my God, you know, like, I mean, there's just, I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
It's not because, it's just because so many people brought so much heart and skill and talent. Just so many moments in that movie. That's the strength of the films, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it all week here, you know, chatting with the folks at Weta and everything, and you hear all these stories, and one thing that's become abundantly clear over the past 20 plus years is that just everybody was pouring their heart and soul into these films.
I tell you what, I love Thorin Oakenshield's death. Yeah. I know that people hate that we changed so much in all of that, but I'm sorry, Richard Armitage to Bilbo Baggins.
So good.
Oh, if you want to make me cry. Yeah. That was I was on set for that one, and that was whoa. Yeah.
It's a tearjerker. Yeah.
No, but it was just a sort of like, again, I think that I'm very drawn to those characters who are fallen.
As far as the films, you know, being the Tolkien book nerd that you are, what's your favorite part of the books that you weren't able to put in the films that you had to cut at some point?
Oh, that's easy. What do you think I'm going to say?
I think you're going to say Tom Bombadil.
I'm going to say Tom Bombadil, but actually I'm going to say the Old Forest.
Oh, okay. So the whole Old Forest as a whole.
The whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing from going through that gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that gate's in my dreams. Yeah.
Now, how early? I imagine that was probably a pretty early decision. You know, recognizing that you had to cut the whole Old Forest start. You know. I think every adaptation that's ever adapted Lord of the Rings, they kind of set that off to the side.
Yeah, but we tried to do it in such a way where we didn't say they didn't go there.
Yes, yeah. Because you have that cut, and it's, you know, you can kind of insert it yourself.
It's still there. It's waiting to be told.
What race of character would you be if you lived in Middle-earth?
I mean, I would love to say a hobbit. But I actually think I'd be, sorry, it's going to be boring, but I'd be of the world of men, I think.
Okay.
Probably a
which
housewife
kingdom?
and Bree. Yes, something like that. I think I would be of the world of men, I think. Okay. Yeah. If I could ride, I would say one of the Rohan, but I can't, so that's not going to work.
Where in Middle-earth would you most like to visit?
Wow.
Which, I mean, granted, you kind of live in Middle-earth. We're down here in New Zealand, but...
Yeah, I know, but that's the imagination also of so many incredible, I mean, Peter and concept artists and Alan Lee and, oh my God. I just go and live in Alan Lee and John Howe's minds. That's what I do. No, I tell you what. No, I do know. I was going to say Lothlorien, but no. Khazad-dûm.
Yeah.
Because I think, even though it would be terrifying, I think it would be, because Lothlorien, I'd like to go on vacation in Lothlorien, but when you say sea, that sense of wonder and awe, Gondor or Khazad-dûm, and I think of the two, got to go with the dwarves.
Yeah. That's a good one. I like that one. I would love to visit. I think, especially if you can pick the timing of your visit, you know, I want to avoid the Balrog.
Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. But, you know, I mean, I don't know, because it's like, also, wouldn't you want to see that creature? If you
what
were
a way to go, you know?
Safe distance. I know. Oh, my God. Yeah.
All right, so last lightning round question. This
Okay.
is kind of a unique one for you, because I know, from the Hobbit appendices and everything, I know one of the people you've nerded out with is Stephen Colbert.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the clip? I think it's been a couple years now, but that Billy and Dom actually stumped him on a question
Yes.
on his show. Did you see that? Did you know about that?
I know I have seen it, and I can't remember. What was the question?
The question was, where was the
Oh,
Ent
I remember.
movie?
Oh my God. No, Billy told the story about the fake script that we wrote.
Oh, really?
He told the story in that interview about, I remember, because he sent me a message and said, oh God, I told the story. Fran and I wrote these fake pages for Billy and Dom because they were such practical jokers on set.
Yeah.
They were always pulling pranks on people. So we issued them these pages that were fake, but
Yeah.
they didn't know. But it
Okay.
required them ending up naked.
Oh my
And they
gosh.
believed it. They believed it. It was very funny. It was just one of these things where we were like, okay, you guys, you want to be pranksters? Try
And they
this one."
totally believed
They
bought
they
it.
did, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which if they'd stopped and thought about it, I think they did. But yeah, we
some
did
point.
get them. No, we got them. We definitely got them. But yeah, sorry, interrupting. But I
No,
do
that's all
remember
right.
that interview, yes,
Yeah.
because he told me, yes.
Yeah, because they asked him where the Entmu was held, and he couldn't think of the name. I was curious if you knew
That's
the
a
name.
hard one.
It is. I didn't know it. I'll fully admit I didn't know it.
Oh God, Durndingle.
It is
Yeah,
Durndingle.
okay.
There you go.
No, but that's
Yeah.
because, to be fair to Stephen, that's because I was recalling the interview. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going back and recalling that thing.
Oh, we don't have to tell him that. We
No.
can cut that part out. Like, see,
Oh no,
Stephen,
no,
she
no!
knew.
He's taken me out and more than once.
It's
I have to
it's kind of wild. His encyclopedic knowledge. It's kind of wild.
True fan.
Yeah.
True fan.
Yeah. Now, one last question. You mentioned Billy and Dom's prank, and did you guys actually film any? Like, did you
No.
get them started on that road
No,
or
no,
anything?
no,
That
no.
would have been an interesting outtake.
No, because it was the way it was. It was. They had to fall out of. I think we had them falling out of Treebeard, and along the way their clothes started to come off with something, and then I can't remember the line. It was so dumb. I can't believe we got them actually, but we did issue it. Production was great. Production actually went along with it,
Oh, my
and
word.
we issued them as proper pages and everything else. Yeah.
Now, I do have a couple more quick questions,
Yes.
because I was actually listening to some of the commentary, you and Fran and Peter, and one of the things that Peter seems to repeat a lot, which I had kind of forgotten about, was, you guys are talking about deleted scenes and everything, and he's like, oh, maybe for a 25th anniversary,
Right.
a home media release. And now I'm sitting here looking at, gosh, that's only 2 years away.
Yeah.
I feel like he should make good on that.
Yeah, he should. I'm just trying to think what they were. Yeah, he should, absolutely. I don't know, do we need more? Yes, probably.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
That shouldn't be a question. You know better
I'll
than
ask
that.
him. I'll ask him what he's doing. For God's sake, stop with these Beatles.
Yes, the Beatles. We get it. The Beatles are awesome. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, last thing, I will say I really appreciated, I gained a new appreciation because I was listening to those commentaries, and it seemed like you chimed in especially a lot when, there were changes from the books, and you always had these great little bits. Oh, we had to change this. Here's the reasoning. And I just loved getting that creative process and
Right.
knowing that, you guys always had the books in mind and were malleable where you needed to be, and
Yeah,
it was
we
just such a good explanation.
Try to.
Yeah.
Try to. Yeah. Don't change it lightly. Like there should be a reason. If
Yeah.
you're having to change it, why? Did you want to meet those two other people that I was talking about who happen to be busy working away?
They're busy working
They
right
are
now?
actually literally trying to find a line.
Oh, wow. Well,
Should we go and interrupt them?
We interrupt them
Okay,
as they're
interrupt
working
the
on
work.
War of the Rohirrim.
Yeah, but don't tell the studio.
If the movie gets delayed,
Yeah.
released
It's
by
on you
about
guys.
5 minutes, then it's our fault
Okay.
right here.
All right. We'll go and see if we can find them.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So Philippa,
Yes.
we're joined by a couple special guests here who introduce us
to
our illustrious guests.
Okay, so this is the next generation. Like we were talking about, it's younger minds. So these are the two screenwriters for The War of the Rohirrim. This is Phoebe Gittins and Arty Papageorgiou. And yes, I actually literally have grabbed them away from they were trying to figure out some, it's probably what you'd call background dialogue, but important kind of background dialogue, which often happens in post-production, where you suddenly realize, oh yeah, that nobody's responding to this moment. We'd better have some response. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully you fixed it, guys.
Yeah, just moments where you see our director Kamiyama-san has kind of created space for other characters too. You know, it's a bit of like a hoorah kind of thing. So just filling in some of those Walla lines. Yeah. Great.
So I'm glad that our interview didn't delay you guys too much. I was worried because it's went from April to December, and I don't want to be responsible for any further delays. So
this is all on you.
Yes. I gotta say, I'm really excited. That when it made the move to December, I was like, oh, that kind of feels right. Going to see a Middle Earth film in December. It's
freaked me out. Because, I kind of felt like, wow, we didn't actually set out to write a Christmas movie. Like when I say a Christmas movie, one that's going to carry the weight of the expectations that you have around that time. But I didn't, I'm feeling like you. Yeah, it's feeling quite good. Yeah. And yeah, I certainly think Kamiyama has stepped up in a way like, whoa, it's just, it's feeling pretty epic to me. Yeah. Some pretty epic moments in there. Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the story a little bit. There's definitely those breadcrumbs Tolkien left us, and there's some juicy ones in there. Now, this these kind of fragments of Tolkien's story that he left behind. We've got some bits of dialogue here and there. We've got kind of a plot summary of what happens. We've got some really haunting imagery at the Hornburg, which is delightful. But I'm curious, and we touched on this a little bit, Philippa. How do you go about filling the gaps and creating a cohesive story and making it feel Tolkien all throughout?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's like you say, at first glance, we're looking at maybe a page and a half of text, but actually, we found there were so many threads to pull from. Like just in the era that this is set, we have the backdrop of the long winter to play with. For example, you have things like Gondor. Where is Gondor? While these internal conflicts are playing out, you have Fréaláf. How does he fit into all of this? You have, Rohirrim taking refuge in the Hornburg, but then the question of, okay, so what else might be lurking in those mountains? There was so much.
That was a new one for the nerds. Let's see if they can figure that one out.
but we had so much fun. There's so many things, and of course,
the page to have is full of
and
rich things to pull from, for sure.
Yeah. And the unnamed daughter of Helm, who now is at the heart of this film. Yeah. And that was so much fun to kind of explore and see what we could bring to that. So yeah, God, we have had an amazing time.
Yeah. Well, you brought up Hera is her name in the film.
Hera. So not like the Greek, no offense, sorry. But not like the Greek goddess. We actually, Fran Walsh named her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were stuck. We knew it had to be an H. So Helm, Hammer had to be an H. And we got stuck, and then there was a lot of H's that just don't work with it. Yeah. And then Fran said, why don't you name her after our Viking? And she was referring to Hera Helma, who played Hester in Mortal Engines, who is a Viking, a true Viking. Wow. Brilliant Icelandic actress. And as soon as she said, and then I actually went to the Old English, sorry, not Middle English, Old English experts, and it was like, what would you do? How would this be different? And it is Hera. Hera. I can't. I can never roll my eyes. It says it. Yeah, all the actors say it way more beautifully, but it is a beautiful name, and actually has the threads. Although it's not in fact necessarily a genuinely Old English Anglo-Saxon name, it would kind of mean noble.
Okay. Yeah.
Threads of Old English in there meaning noble.
Now, we brought up Hera, so what can you tell us about? We'll go through some of the main players from the book, not to spoil anything, but maybe a little tease. Maybe if we're allowed to tease a little bit. So what can you tell us? We'll start with Hera since we brought her up.
Yeah, Hera. We, being a daughter of kings, a Rohirrim daughter of kings, she is a fabulous rider and very skilled, with a sword. We saw her as very wild, adventurous, carefree in the beginning, and with a deep love of the natural world and a fascination with the creatures of Middle Earth.
I think it was like her journey. We were actually stuck with that character until you guys came along, I think, to be honest, especially Phoebe wanted to, it's so easy to write a warrior princess character, and I think we've seen the warrior princess character about him, and you didn't want that. You really didn't want that for her. You wanted it to be authentic.
And she would know how to swing a sword from a kid.
Well,
she's the daughter of Helm.
She's the daughter of Helm. She's got older brothers. All of that sort of stuff.
By this,
So that didn't interest you so much. It was more, what was good about it when you guys came to the story with her was, that's not what the story is about. It's about her facing up to these really hard choices that she has to make. And also, what you liked was that fact that her whole life was planned for her.
Yeah, and she ends up bearing a lot of the consequences of other people's actions. A lot of her choices are stripped from her, and so we really wanted to deliver her to a place towards the end of the film where it's about her choice, her having an ability to choose something.
It's a hard choice.
All shall be revealed. But definitely crafting her journey was a lot of fun as well,
And then we got Gaia Weiss to play her, which was like
we
were talking about casting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. You know how I said the right person turns up and plays it?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you just wait.
Just such a spark. The
She
second
is.
any of us heard her.
She didn't.
The moment for her audition was out.
Yeah, who is this? Yeah. And that energy and life and she has the wildness, but she also has the heart and the emotion, and she's stunning actor. Stunning. Anyway, yeah.
So next, Helm Hammerhand.
Such a dude.
What can you tell us? What do you want to tell
Well,
us about
I
Helm?
think, what I thought was really interesting, actually, because we were talking, and what I suddenly realized you guys did, and I know, Arty, you were very focused on that scene, especially the hall, the Great Hall, where all mainly because I know you come at things a little bit as a director as well, and so does Phoebe. You've got all these characters in that scene. You've got so many characters that you were juggling in that scene, but it's also the entrance of this king. But we were talking, I said, one of the things people forget is that he hasn't necessarily been king that long. And I suddenly realized after I said that drove a lot of what you did with Helm, I thought, and what Kamiyama did with Helm, which was the testing of his authority. He hasn't been king long enough, maybe. His authority is being tested. The line of his sons is in question. All of these threads that you guys put into that scene, especially with the variety of characters at play in there, and then, so the consequences of that.
It is. It's this scenario.
He is an incredible fighter, for sure, and a warrior, but...
But what takes place between himself and Freca it, really does set the stage for the unfolding of a lot of tragic events.
Yeah.
But I find one of the most redeeming qualities of Helm in the film is his love for his children. Sounds a bit cheesy, but some of my favorite parts of the storytelling is the relationship between Helm and Hera. And there's a lot of tension, a lot of conflict there, but at the heart there is like this deep father-daughter bond. And those moments I found them really special, writing on those and working on those, and that's one of my favorite things about him is just this love for his children. It's so nice.
I mean, overall, it's what's interesting to think about. It's sort of a film about choices and consequences, really. Not just Helm in terms of, I mean, it's no spoiler, but the way he deals with Freca, but also what we did with Wulf.
Yeah.
I think that was, if we're talking about sort of pulling threads and from what's in the appendix.
Yeah.
That was also quite a fun task, sort of looking at Wulf and seeing sort of what position his father's actions put him in, and then how he reacts to them, and then he gets himself in deep.
Yes.
and how he has to try and get out of that, or does he double down? And those were decisions that we had a lot of fun delving into and trying to sort of broaden and deepen his character through that I guess journey.
Yeah, he was, I found, quite a complex character, really, because it's interesting with his setup, because I think you were saying, Phil, it's like after the beginning he kind of is left with this quite righteous anger in a way. This horrible event takes place, but really, so it's about his choices from that point on that we found really interesting, and how do we sort of deliver him to a place that Kamiyama wanted him at the end of the film, and that was a really fun journey to try and take him on and figure out how to do that.
Kamiyama really relishes that character, I think.
He's done him
He's just like phenomenal job on that character, because it could have been like one note.
Yes.
But he doesn't. He never wanted that, and then he kept pushing you guys. He kept pushing you guys to find a little bit more in there, a little bit more in there, and then
No, he was a real fun character to try and get the most out of.
Yeah, and another incredible performance, by the way.
Fantastic.
Luke
Pasqualino. So lucky.
I know, we're so lucky. His voice is just like
Freca.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, Shaun
about
Dooley's
Fabs?
voice. Oh my God. Yeah, I know.
So good.
I know.
When you hear it on the mix,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, and everything he brings to it. Yeah, it's a powder keg, that opening. I love it. It's a powder keg. What you did was because you kind of do know where it's going to end up, but it's in fact a powder keg.
Brian
and then everything.
Shaun's incredible.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That Wulf kind of parallels, with Hera a little bit here. It sounds like they're both kids put into these situations, and it's like, how do they react to them?
This mess. So to
yes,
speak.
the mess.
Yeah.
And then it's about the choices that they make.
and the choices, very different choices they make, and we were very drawn to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's one thing. Excuse me. That's one thing I've always loved. I always think of in the original films where you see Denethor and Theoden, who go through very similar circumstances, but their choices are different paths. That's just
Wulf commits himself to a course of action that is almost irredeemable. There's no coming back. So, like you said, Arty,
there is a threshold.
There's a threshold that he crosses, and then he becomes this really
it's a great moment.
It gets wild.
yes. And then one other character, that was nice. We kind of covered a couple of the other characters I was curious about. One other one I was curious about is Fréaláf.
Yes.
So that's the nephew of Helm Hammerhand. What can you tell us about Fréaláf?
Fréaláf Hildeson.
Yeah.
Through his mother, well, it was interesting there because we knew who his mother was, but we don't know who his father was.
Yeah.
So, we had...
It was an interesting choice, So just full disclosure, I thought, well, why are we assuming he's Rohirrim? who borders? What are the people's border besides Gondor? Well, it is part of Gondor, but so we especially when we found the perfect actor to play him, it became really obvious that like, okay, this is interesting, and talking with Kamiyama, you know, the idea that it just makes Fréaláf not the obvious choice to inherit what he does end up inheriting. So, and also he turns out very much like a Deus Ex Machina, a little bit Éomer going on. You know, if you're not careful. You know, do you know what I mean? If you don't put enough thought into, okay, what else is going on with this character, it can feel a little bit too much like that. So,
Now you mentioned, you know, feeling like a little too much like Éomer. I imagine that's kind of an interesting balancing act, you know, to feel familiar and be in the same universe, but not, you know, being the same thing or repeating the same things that people have already seen. Did you guys revisit the films, the originals, before embarking on this to, you know, feel like it's cut from the same cloth, so to speak?
I think. I mean, we didn't really need to.
Yeah. It's ingrained in you. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like.
Well, and you're in them, so.
I grew up with them.
Yes,
yeah,
I'm sure.
I mean, I grew up around the corner from
Oh.
Workshop.
Oh,
So
yeah.
But also growing up in Wellington at that time, it was impossible. Like, it was infectious. It was impossible not to be captivated by this huge film being shot in the hills behind you. You know, like at night, when you go to bed and you look up to the hills behind,
Lights.
there would be film lights,
Yeah.
you know, which was like, might be normal in other places, but it certainly wasn't normal in Wellington.
no, that's true.
And it really was just like the coolest thing. And so ever since then, and it's funny what you're saying about the Christmas movie thing. It's
Yeah.
like my friends and I still watch all three if we're in the same city, we get together and watch them every Christmas.
Yeah.
So like weirdly, it's a Christmas movie for us. But yeah, so it wasn't a matter so much of sort of trying to fall back into the world of the cinematic Middle Earth. It was more like, hey, this is a really amazing opportunity to try and think about animation and anime and how that could bring a fresh look at not only visually but also sort of thematically to
Yeah, I think the anime is what actually really got you guys, because I remember a little bit of hesitation when I came to you guys. You were a little bit, because I had other work on. It wasn't just that, but you were also like, do we want to go into Middle Earth? Like, because you know, you had a lot of other choices that you could have done, but then
also the deep respect for what had already been done. No, but it's stressful because you don't want to, you know, like it was like, you know, what's going on here? Like, are we?
What I'm saying is, I thought they were going to turn me down.
Well, no, just what comes with it, you know. There's these podcasts and bloggers and YouTube channels who
Gonna judge you. They will judge you, Arty.
and fly out to your country to meet up with you while you're trying to finish the film to make sure you're doing a good job. So that was came with a lot of trepidation.
But also, like, speaking, you know, you're saying cut from the same fabric.
Yeah.
We knew. For us, we didn't foresee that being a problem because so many of the same players are making this. You know, you have Philippa, but you also have like the same sound teams. You've Mike Hedges. You know, we've got Stephen Gallagher composing. You've got
Daniel
John Howe,
It was
Alan Lee.
John Howe, Alan Lee, Richard Taylor.
have those hands on it. So for us, it was interesting, looking at that opened up space to be like, well, cool, how do we make this blend with the world of anime then? And it was actually more about kind of coming from that direction for us, because we knew it was in pretty safe hands.
Well, you guys grew up on anime too.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other side of it.
Yeah, it wasn't, but not just anime, but also sort of, I mean, weirdly, sort of Japanese cinema in general. Maybe that wasn't the brief, but you know, like I was such a fan of different Japanese genre films or directors or that it just seemed like, wow, this is such a cool opportunity to draw on a whole bunch of other influences in adapting this material. So yeah, it ended up being like, oh, this is, don't know about this is really scary, to wow, this is so exciting. And then I think what sold us completely was I think we got sent some concept art.
Yeah.
And was like, oh yeah, hell yeah.
But also
it
was Kamiyama, because Kamiyama, so he had a couple of things that just they didn't kind of fit. But he's a filmmaker. He knows that that's going to look incredible on film. And you guys got excited by that. Like, there's a horror story aspect to this, which is very different.
Well, that's it's the Japanese genre film
the
stuff.
Genre
you know, it was just like,
starting to come into it and stuff. And there was things like, if you were doing a very film school, like, okay, the 3-act structure, there was a lot of stuff that you wouldn't put in, but he wants to see it. You know, like, he could see it in his mind. Like, how the hell do you besiege a giant citadel?
Yeah.
Just you wait and see.
Probably also helped that we happened to be in COVID lockdown in Queenstown, and we were walking sort of nearly daily, by accident, sort of different film locations. So that probably helped a lot as well.
In the zone.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, we were in the zone.
You're supposed to be writing something else.
I know. But we quickly pivoted. We were like, yeah.
Well, Lord of the, I mean, Tolkien, it just kind of grabs you, you know. Now, I'm curious, as you know, I've read up and, you know, quickly consumed any morsel of information about this movie as it comes out. I, you know, think back to moments in the films, you know, involving the Rohirrim and possible, you know, maybe not direct ties to this story, but moments in the Lord of the Rings that, you know, with the story of Helm and, you know, the fall of Edoras and everything, that might land just a little bit differently, you know, with that history of Rohan in mind. Did you have any moments like that where, you know, you saw, oh, this is kind of an interesting connection to what has come before?
I think there's quite a few of those.
Yeah. There are quite a few reflections and ripples, and definitely.
Set up sexually for what comes after as well. Yeah.
But I don't know how many we can speak
What is interesting though, rereading the books and stuff, you sort of pick up on different things, and you're like, oh wow, like it really is informed by some of these things which took place in the books. Whether at the time we were like totally like aware of it or not, you know, it was just like, it was just ingrained in us, and you know, that's been interesting.
All right, so we obviously, another character involved in the film, we know that Miranda Otto is returning as Éowyn to serve as the narrator. I'm curious, and I have a hunch of what the answer will be, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Is there any chance that we might see other familiar characters pop up?
I don't know. Maybe any.
You can't confirm nor deny.
Cannot confirm nor deny.
Or deny. Okay, fair enough. I've just, you know, we nerds, we look at timelines, we see when, you know,
I think
certain characters show up.
No one inappropriate who shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Okay.
Just those who should be there.
I can think of one thing.
We've got some good Easter eggs, I have to say.
Ooh, I do.
Very
like,
good ones.
I like good
I think
Easter
so.
eggs.
Yeah.
Well, I'll certainly be looking forward to the eventual home media release and commentary where we can hear you guys talking about even more goodies from behind the scenes that we can't quite talk about yet.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for taking time out. Again, if the movie comes out like half an hour later, it's my fault. I'm sorry. I'll take the blame for that one. But thank you all so much for taking the time out and nerding out with us.
It's great. It's been nice talking about it, because sometimes you live in it for so long that you kind of answering questions about it makes you revisit things and go, oh yeah. So it's been enjoyable, and I just hope we do it justice. I hope we do what Kenji Kamiyama and his team, we've got a fantastic team. Warner's has been fantastic. They've just really supported this film. And I just hope that we bring it home for the fans. Because I think if we can, I think it's going to open up a world of other opportunities, other type,
And a whole new group of fans, bring a whole new group
a whole new group of fans is true. The young anime
and
fans, to the world of Middle Earth. That'll be so cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, I am certainly looking forward to it. I know there's a lot of folks out there really pumped about it. We're chomping at the bit for a trailer, so maybe that's probably a Warner Brothers question. I would love to see a trailer. Hint, hint, Warner Brothers. Would love to see a trailer. But thank you all so much again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, you probably don't need me to remind you, War of the Rohirrim coming out this December. You'll definitely want to make your date to go to the movie theater and catch Lord of the Rings again in theaters in December. Like I said, it just feels right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, and we hope we'll see you guys in December.
All right.
Well, thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.
Bye.